At this point, I want to encourage, or I want to welcome Megan Rasmussen and Sia Paganis, who are our next presenters, who are going to be talking about standards, and specifically the ISAIL standards, which you should all be familiar with. Some of you might not know what that is, but hopefully by the end of today, you'll be very familiar with them. So Megan and Sia, you are welcome to share your screen. I'm not sure which one of you wants to go first.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I can go ahead and share the slides. And Megan, I see Megan now. All right. Well, it's going to be a really tough act to follow because intellectual freedom is such an important topic for all of us in this current climate. And I also want to give a shout out to Christina, because not only is she intellectual freedom chair, she's also on the standards committee and contributed to ISAIL 2022. So she is multi-talented. And so today, like Dan said, that we're going to touch on standards, which I know there's usually a collective groan when someone starts talking about standards. But hopefully today, Megan and I will show you how you can use standards to just kind of reframe your thinking in the library, and how it's a tool to help us all kind of create like uniform library programs in our schools, are very, very different schools. But the link to the standards, the actual standards themselves, is on the ISAIL website. And so you guys can see my screen, correct? I can't see the chat anymore.
Correct. Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay.
I'll manage the chat for you.
Okay, cool. And so we will be sharing out the link in the chat towards the end here. So, all right. So I'm Sia Paganis. I am a teacher librarian in Glendale Heights, Illinois, which is about 40 minutes west of Chicago. So I'm in the suburbs. I'm in a 5 through 8 building. And I'm also the standards task force chair for ISAIL. So we completed ISAIL 2022, and now we're working on linking for learning. So if we do another one of these, maybe next time we'll talk about linking for learning. So go ahead, Megan.
I'm Megan Rasmussen. I'm the district librarian for Round Lake area schools. We're in Round Lake, I don't know. So it's Lake County. I don't know, we're close to Six Flags. That's how I always explain it. So we're K-12 district. We have 9 different schools, and that's pretty much it. So we've been working on standards for the last couple of years. So.
Okay. So today, like I said before, we're going to learn about the library standards, and we're really just going to think about how these library standards are going to guide your time that you spend with students. Also, standards help us advocate for our library program. So we'll learn a little bit more about that today. So what does ISAIL mean? No kidding, Megan and I looked it up just to make sure, even though we've been working on this for years. It's Illinois Standards Aligned Instruction for Libraries. So you'll hear ISAIL all the time, and there's always images of little boats. But it is a standardized framework for teaching library skills that'll help our students with lifelong learning skills. So think of how Common Core standards tried to, the purpose is to unify instruction across the country. So ISAIL is kind of our little way to unify our library instruction across Illinois. So learning standards equals what we teach. Or I know some of you maybe say, well, I don't teach students. You spend time with kids. Everyone in this room is in a library because they spend time with children. And so you need to think about those skills that when you help kids find books on the shelf, reader's advisory, looking up information, think about what students can do after we teach them important skills. So I just want to, that was one thing that is very important to us to get across is, even if you are not instructing classes and giving grades, you are still impacting student learning.
So why should you care about these standards? Well, because we all impact literacy in a measurable and meaningful way. The library can be its own content area, even though library skills are interdisciplinary. The library prepares students with skills that they will use for life, and these standards and outline our important work. So I want to kind of elaborate on these points. So thinking about how it kind of gives structure to the time that you're working with students. So what that means, I want you to think about our elementary folks, right? So the information needs that your students have. Just put in chat, like, what kind of information needs do your students have? Just anything that your students are like, I want to know about X, Y, or Z. Just anything in chat. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, I'm thinking about the stuff that my students are. Okay, great. Zodiac, animals, yep. War, yeah. Sports, Jesus, great. Yeah. All the things that these kids just, animals is a big one. Titanic, I don't know why Titanic is always the big one that they want, right? Okay, so these are the things that these kids, they show up, so many. So these kids just show up and they're like, hey, I need to know about whales. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Want to make friends? Yes, that's a good answer. Great. Okay. Then we get older, right? Now our high school folks. Okay. So what kinds of stuff are my high school students asking about? Let's think about that for a second. Oh, conspiracy theories. That one's a good one too. So what kind of things are you thinking about? Serial killers. I hope that's a high school answer, but you never know. Self-image. That's another one. Urban life. Okay. Romance is, that could be a genre, or it could be self-help, who knows? I mean, you don't, money. Yep, okay, so it could be assignments, true. LGBT, right? That could be them looking to try to understand themselves, anything. World War II, that's always a popular subject. No judgment, whatever. Jobs, they could be looking to try to figure out what they're gonna do. Okay, Donner, yep, sure, why not? Okay, now as an adult, what kind of information needs do you have? Let's think about that. So thinking of the things that you researched. Just stuff that you had, taxes, parenting. Yeah, sign language, self-help, retirement. Yes, absolutely. Okay, there are so many things that I'm seeing on here, right? So let's think for a moment about the stuff that we have just identified. Regardless of the age, there are information needs, right? And I 100% believe that all these information needs are of equal importance. Yeah, through a master's program, that's, yeah, very valid. How to fix a Chromebook. So these are all very important information needs. The stakes may be a little higher in some, right? Between I want to know about whales versus, my master's program, right? The stakes might be a little bit different, but they're still very valid information needs. The skills that we are teaching as library educators are the skills they need in order to find the information they're looking for. That's what this comes down to. And we need to be thinking about this, right? So just like Sia said about how whenever you're spending time with students, you're teaching them things. That's what you do when you're with kids, you're teaching them stuff. These are the kind of skills that you're teaching them, right? And the whole idea of the standards is so that you can give some sort of structure to what you're teaching and to that time that you have with them. So we're going to go over them very quickly. That's why we gave you the link, so you can kind of see what it looks like. You can explore for your age level.
Okay. So I actually didn't mean to click the slide while you were talking, Megan, but I did anyway. So yeah, so what Megan was getting at is she was really kind of diving into how, let's say, our standard 1 information literacy, what it looks like across a wide age span, right? So there are so many different things that we do to impact kids when it comes to libraries. Libraries, we're not just one we are our own content area, but yet we're like in every content area. So, so what we did with the new standards is we reframed, and this is a shift. So the ISAIL, also a little bit of history. ISAIL has been around for a while. So many of you, if you're familiar, there's been quite a few different editions of ISAIL. And so this is just the most current edition. And I'm sure there'll be more editions in the future because our information landscape is always changing. How we teach kids changes throughout time. So currently, we put library skills into 4 standard buckets. And so how we broke that down was that we have standard 1, our information literacy. So that is finding information for research purposes. Any part of the research process is usually underneath our standard 1. Our standard 2 is media literacy, and our high school folks probably have heard of Illinois Public Act 102-0055. And media literacy is actually mandated to be taught in high school, but that by in no means needs to just stay up in high school. So we kind of, we took those skills and scaffolded them back. We did a backward design. So when you look at that in a second, you will see how what that could look like in even kindergarten. So media literacy is analyzing, evaluating, creating, and communicating using a variety of objective forms responsibly, including but not limited to print, visual, audio, interactive, and digital formats. It's a lot of creating. It's a lot of sharing. If we have time, Dan, I would love to talk a little bit more in depth because I know media literacy is like a huge topic for discussion in libraries right now, in Illinois especially. Our standard 3 is digital literacy. So understanding what our online presence looks like and how we impact others. And then also our privacy and security practices. Think digital citizenship. So those of you that maybe help teach those digital citizenship lessons, that's our standard 3. And then our standard 4, this is my favorite as a librarian, and probably most of the people on this Zoom right now, is individual literacy, which means the appreciation of literature and its impact on the individual and foundation for lifelong learning. So we also use literature to develop empathy and appreciation for our diverse world in which we live. So this is those readers advisory moments you have with kids, reading a story for the elementary folks, maybe getting kids really hooked into a good book, getting them excited about reading, and then also helping our kids figure out who they are as readers and hopefully impact them so that they become lifelong readers.
Okay, so this goes into a little bit more depth because each of the standards are split into these different skills. And then I asked Duncan, you asked the question of digital literacy versus media literacy. I don't know if that was explained, but it really is kind of like the digital citizenship versus the media literacy, which is a lot of reading and things like that. So information literacy, it's like I talked about a lot of this research and things like that. To be honest, my favorite, I think, besides the reading, I love that, but like I just love researching stuff. It's like my favorite thing. So that's part of why I'm a librarian. So I want everybody to just take 1 second and just think of looking at the things on the blue part. Can you think of anything you've done with students that would fit into this category? Anything that you've done that, yep, just put in chat.
And I think that we really took a lot of the language from the ASL standards, our national standards. So you do all these things. It's just using different words.
That's exactly it. Yes. Okay. So anytime that you're trying to help them find something, you're helping them find, so thinking about times that you're helping them find information, organizing, so animal projects. Yep. So like thinking about that, Okay, you're trying to organize that kind of information, that kind of thing. Yeah. So your different units, those are the kinds of things. So that might be kind of more, that way. Let's take a moment to look at standard 2, so your digital literacy, or excuse me, standard 3. Sorry, that slide
Yeah,
there.
they're split up in a weird way on this slide. I'm so sorry.
That's okay, doesn't matter. Digital literacy, so good. Digital literacy. So we're looking at using, this is like your digital citizenship, right? Can you think of anything you've ever done? Okay, so someone already just teaches classes on this. So you could just look at this and be like, do I hit all these standards? There's something else that I'm gonna, make sure I check mark. Can you think of anything else that you do? Okay, you're looking at.
Yeah, if any of you use like Common Sense Media,
Mm-hmm.
most of their lessons will fall under standard 3, digital literacy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm a fan of oh shoot, I don't remember. Oh, you could still reinforce some of those things if the library doesn't if there's a separate class, you can always reinforce. That's always a good idea too. I do like Google. Google has like little games and stuff. Yeah, I like those. Oh, Internet Awesome. Thank you. That's
Be
what I was
Internet
trying to think
Awesome,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of those. But I'm a sucker for gamification. Let's look at the next slide so we can take a peek at the other ones. Thank you. So media literacy, especially our high school folks, I know that this is a thing that is all about all in the media. So anything for media literacy. So we're looking at analyzing and evaluating media. So basically looking at this and we're like, is this a good source? Oh yes, thank you. Okay, perfect, thank you. Can you guys think of anything you've done? So talking about communicating with your audience and actually thinking about your audience instead of, this is the same for everybody, sharing. Okay.
And I think this one, so any of you that use like maybe Flipgrid or whatever it's called now,
Yes.
or video creation, but even kindergartners can share a story, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, very good. Okay, last one, everybody's favorite, individual literacy. So talking about appreciating benefits of reading, exploring different formats, developing your reading identity, empathy. Oh my gosh, I couldn't say it. But so understanding different perspectives. Let's think of one thing we've done to do this. See if you can put one thing in. Shelf Refresh Chapter Friday, book list challenges. Ooh, that's a really good one. I like that one. Can we think of anything else we've done? Just quickly throw it in there. Yes, I have my kindergartners do book reviews where they just discuss it, and they either color in a happy face or sad face. And it is the most adorable thing. I love it. Makes great wall art. Okay, awesome. So these are all things that a lot of you are already kind of doing, and you can just kind of expand on it. But when you're thinking about these like more concrete standards, it's another way to kind of talk with admin and talk about how important it is with everything you're doing with your students. That's really what this comes down to. You're really emphasizing how important it is that every minute you are working with your student. That's really what this comes down to, because you're working on concrete skills.
Yeah, and so I think this is just breaking down just one strand, because we're not going to get bogged down into the details. These standards are a little bit lengthy, but you can see that we really chose a backward design for these standards. And so it was very intentional. Our whole committee, and there was a range, we had representatives from K-12. And so as a committee, we worked together to come up with our big bucket of standards and skills. But then we had the high school folks look and say, hey, what does analyze and evaluate mean in a high school? What is it that you teach? And so they started the job for us. And then we took those skills and we looked on how we could bring those down all the way to kindergarten. And as you can see, something like recognizing fact, bias, point of view, and opinion as presented in media. that's very complex. It's very complex. I teach middle school. It is a tough one for middle school even. And when we go down the line, when we're in kindergarten to grade 2, all we want them to know is that there's fact and there's opinion, and how can we tell what those two look like, right? So really, if you take a look at these at on your own time, we just want you to really, we don't expect that, you know, do I teach every single one of these in every grade level? No. But it's helped me be a little more intentional with my time with students. It's very different for me. Every grade level, I see 5th grade in their own class, but then 6th or 8th grade, I co-teach with teachers. So it's just something to recognize and just think about when you have that time with kids and when you're working with teachers as well. Be like, hey, look, you know, maybe we need to, I'll help you plan this with your lessons. So this is breaking down, and I think we just put 2 of them in here. And so this is, yeah, so this is just, this is for empathize for our individual literacy, our standard 4. And this is just what that looks like going down. And really, standard 4 is unique because I think we kept the same language for every grade level. So I think that's why we put this in here. Yeah, so most of this is scaffolded down, but individual literacy is its own unique topic. Although we used big adult words for kindergarten to 2nd grade, we still do those things with kindergartners. And of course, by no means, if you use these to create student learning objectives, if you actually teach library classes, of course, I put this into kid-friendly language. We wouldn't use this exact wording with our students, but these same skills, so individual literacy is a little bit different in that we really hit those skills. It looks different at each grade level, but we do the same things throughout. So, all right, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email either one of us. You can email my ISAIL email, and feel free, if you're so inspired to help work on Linking for Learning, which is our program standards, give me an email or contact ISAIL through their volunteer email, which I believe is on the website.
Thank you, Sia and Megan. This is a great presentation. So for some of you who may actually be new to the library field completely, I just want to mention something about ISAIL. ISAIL is the Association for Illinois School Library Educators, and so, you know, when we talk about this work with standards, when we talk about, you know, all the work, the committee work that ISAIL is doing, they are raising the bar for school libraries across Illinois. They are providing best practices. They're providing the know-how and inspiration for school libraries in our state, and they play a really, really important role. So I want to thank everyone who's presenting, especially you know, Christina, Sia, Megan. They come with a lot of ISAIL perspective because they're longtime ISAIL members. And so if you you know, if you're interested in joining them, I saw that Kristen put a link in there. Thank you, Kristen. So we do have some time for questions. We have about 5 minutes here. So again, if you want to unmute yourself, or if you want to raise your hand, I'll call you to unmute yourself. Sia and Megan, you're welcome to put your contact information in the chat as well. we have about 5 minutes, so it's going to go very fast. But does anybody have any question for Sia and Megan right off the bat? Oh, Sarah, I see you have your hand raised. You want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I had a question about the standards. Is there any resource to help us with activities that support this each standard? Like you went through and you listed what do you do for each of these? Like, is there a resource that has those ideas?
Currently, no, we do not have specific resources to underneath each standard. We don't have like links to activities. Now we will have a interactive poster presentation at ISAIL that we're going to be asking people like what they do to support these different standards. So hopefully we have a lot going on in the standards committee, but you know, it's been discussed, and hey, if you want to come join our committee, you can help us make that activity guide. But reaching out, if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to us. But I think we released these and hope that this was going to be a discussion that librarians could have. And I know a lot of people are very isolated if you're the only one in your building, or maybe the only one in your district. So we were looking for that in the future,
Okay,
Megan,
that
do you
would
have
be
anything
great.
else to add?
No, just that it's something that we definitely discussed, and hopefully something that maybe we can do in the future.
Thank you.